Hi friends, welcome to A Wonderful Sheep and welcome to a new video. We have our 2024 reading journal flip through for the whole year. I can't believe the year is almost over. Since I have videos for every month, I won't talk too in depth about the books I read. Rather, I'll just sort of flip through and you can see the different spreads I made and see how the journal evolved over the months. This might be new if you haven't watched my December flip through yet. I added these tabs for the months, and this is by a Taiwanese stationery brand called Macaron Toe, and I'm kicking myself for not having bought like several sets of these tabs because they are so stinking cute. As you can see, there's different designs for each of the numbers, and they're just really quirky and fun. Let's get into it. I had a little post-it because I planned to do a fantasy map on the end pages of the journal. That did not happen. And I was thinking I'd do an index as well. Also didn't happen. If you'll recall, earlier in the year, I was planning to do a little sticker for every book I read. I think I only did it for the first 2 or 3 months, and I'm glad I stopped because there's no way I would have been able to fit a whole year's worth of books on this page and stickers, but this is, I think, a good place to stop. The cover page for the 2024 reading journal, I didn't put 2024 on the front cover because I thought I might use this across multiple years, but it ended up being just about perfect for 1 year. The year at a glance. At the top I had a calendar and sort of like the different memorial months, like AAPI Heritage Month or Women's History Month to reference, and then at the bottom I put the anticipated releases. But yeah, I read many books that were new releases this year. And then goals page, this was filled in pretty quick. I put 4 goals on this page: read more in Korean, which I definitely did, do some buddy reads, which I did like twice, read more nonfiction, which I stopped keeping track, but I definitely would have filled this section up, and more BIPOC authors. Again, definitely read more than this, but I just stopped filling it after it got filled up. TBR, this spread I kind of used. I turned it more into a recommendations page where I wrote in parentheses behind the title who recommended it, and then I highlighted it if I read it. And then series, this one I didn't really keep track of after I made it in the beginning of the year. And in line with the Year of the Dragon, I also wanted to read more dragon books, and at the time, I guess dragon books are still popular, but fantasy dragon books were really popular with Fourth Wing and such, so I gave myself like 3 books to read, and I did fill in 3 of the little flame sections, and then I had some more recommendations for dragon books that I haven't really gotten to. Maybe I will next year. Memories and milestones, I wrote to keep track of like social media growth, which I sort of stopped. Like January, I was like really gung-ho about posting, and like maybe the first quarter, up until the first quarter, I was still, pretty diligent about posting, and then I sort of dropped off Instagram in the second half of the year. I posted like twice since May or something. All right, into January. This is the cover page, and the original plan was to do like decoration on this side and then some kind of creative bookshelf on the left side. Sort of evolved from the original idea as the months go on, but in the beginning I did stick to that idea. Since I have videos for all of these spreads, either making them or flip throughs, I will just flip through so you can just see the different kinds of spreads, and I will point out any books I really want to talk about again, like Flamefall, so the Aurelian Cycle trilogy. Very, very good, very, very fun young adult fantasy series. In January, I was still doing 1 page per book, which I gave up, I think, after March, but in the beginning of the year, I was still doing a full page for each book. This has a little interactive part. And then occasionally I have these like wrap-up stats pages, thanks to Storygraph, when I had like an odd page left before the next spread in the next month. I actually think I left this page blank because I wanted the two Emily Wilde's books together, and then I thought I was going to do a different book here, and I didn't end up reading it that month, so that's why that wrap-up is randomly in the middle of January into February. This is kind of interesting for me as well to look back and see how I decorated these spreads. This was my post-it I used for my Throne of Glass tandem read. I just wanted it in here, and I think I didn't end up reading Relish this month, but I had like pre-decorated the page for it, so I just stuck that in there. And February was very Sarah J. Maas heavy. Here's the tandem read. Into March. Still doing the books borrowed versus read, but then I discovered that my local libraries had English language books as well, so I wrote down a list of some books I saw at the library that looked interesting that I wanted to read. Nothing to update from this list. I've read a couple of them. And I also tried doing this like time tracker where I would track the progress of how much I'd read of that book and like when it was due by, to try to force myself to read the books that were due earlier. Here I was using my notebook as I was reading this fantasy, and I wrote like little notes on the people, places, and creatures in the book. That's kind of fun. But then, yeah, so this was sort of like the pages I was using as I was reading, and then here I did like, I gave up the full page spreads for the books, and I started doing like a wrap up where I just sort of summarized thoughts about the books and sort of grouped the books together, like books about food, also about food, and all the graphic novels. I guess March was when I started getting into graphic novels. And the rom-coms. Well, it's kind of fun to look at these pages because I forgot I read some of these books. Here's a little ribbon, first place ribbon for The Foxwife, which is one of my favorite reads of the year. And into April. Still trying to do the progress versus due tracker here. Oh, and I made myself a little reading log and used some Storygraph stats to fill in probably some empty spaces. Oh, I started the audiobook of All Things Bright and Beautiful. This was really fun. I practiced drawing some animals too. Oh, the day I found out Vari McFarlane had a new book coming out this year, and when I made this spread, only this bottom half was filled out, because I had read all of her recent releases last year. And then I found out this book was coming out in June of 2024, so I made this spread because I needed to read Who's That Girl, because You Belong With Me was a sequel to Who's That Girl, and ended up finishing all of her backlist this year. Ooh, and into the April wrap-up. I remember this. I like this this month's wrap-up because I used a lot of gold on the sides, and this front page I really like because like the Siddhartha cover and the House of Flame and Shadow cover both had gold, kind of similar looking figures on the covers, which I thought was interesting. Lots of notes from The Art of Possibility. More graphic novels and rom-coms. Funny Story was excellent. Just for the Summer was also really good. Continuing to read some historicals like Julie Garwood, and I believe this is when I discovered Sherry Thomas at the end of April. Really loved what I did with this May cover page. I never ended up filling in the bookshelf part with the books I read, but that's okay. I believe this was AAPI month. Yes, so I made a pretty good effort to read books by Asian or Asian American authors. Here's all the AAPI books I read. I really like this May banner at the top. A little spread dedicated to Sherry Thomas's historicals. Oh, The Hidden Blade, so good. Oh, and nonfiction, The Backyard Bird Chronicles by Amy Tan, also very good. Declutter Your Life was very good. I should put this in my 5-star reads, actually. There were some really like life-changing ideas represented in that book. And some lots of graphic novels and graphic memoirs. I really had a phase of enjoying graphic memoirs. Ministry of Time, also one of my favorite books of the year. And Into June. This was sort of like, I was not feeling the reading journal and like I needed to do a cover page, so I put in the least effort kind of spread. But even though I wasn't really feeling my journal, I still did make my borrowed versus progress bar. This is Masta Miri, a Japanese illustrator and writer, and I started reading a lot of her graphic novels, comic books? I don't know what to call them. So I made some spreads about the different series she had. I never finished this series, actually, the Sujang series. And the Lady Sherlock series, so good. Sherry Thomas, highly recommend. The Lady Sherlock series is really good. And I also love The Hidden Blade and My Beautiful Enemy. This duology is also excellent. Oh, Hail Mary! I really like this book too. I should add that to my favorites of the year as well. Into July. Trying to see what stands out to me. Oh, I read this Hidden Legacy by Alona Andrews series. And then already into August. Switched it up with the bookshelf going across the top. I don't remember how that came across. I think I meant to do August in big letters on this side and then the bookshelf here, and then for whatever reason changed my mind. In August, I started the Mercy Thompson series. Probably won't finish it though. And the Small Town of Misfits Rallies to Save Community Books. Britt Marie was here, the Last Chance Library. The Schoolhouse theme. Here's Immortals After Dark. Again, I probably won't finish the series. I did want to try to get to Lothair because I think that's a lot of people's favorites. Very like classic paranormal romance series. And nonfiction for September, reading A New Earth, probably the most influential book I read. Oh, I should add that to my 5-star reads as well. Glucose Revolution was good. I should reread this to remind myself to stick to it. Oh, Sweetness in the Skin. This was also really good. The reason I'm reminding myself of my 5-star reads is because I've printed out some covers of the books I rated 5 stars on Storygraph, but I don't always rate books, and so this is not an exhaustive list. So I'm going to write that down actually. A New Earth. Okay. Already into October. Discovered a new historical author, Christy Caldwell. Favorites. I think I did print both of these. You Are Here and The Wedding People. November. I did end up writing the names of the books here. And all the different books I read in September. Had a bit of an Eloisa James phase, and rom-coms. Oh, is she really going out with him? I rated 5 stars. Ooh, and we're already into December. Mythmakers was the graphic novel of C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien's friendship. The Power of Now, also by Eckhart Tolle. Cecilia Grant, new to me historical author that I really enjoyed, and of course Lord of Scoundrels. Excellent. Finally read it, so glad I did. Oh, and that's the end of December, and we are going to get into a summary page I started. This is new, you haven't seen this yet, and this is the year in stats that I started thanks to Storygraph. If you don't know, Storygraph is a book tracking, reading tracking app, and I love it. I love it a lot. And one of the great things about Storygraph is that it does a good job of like showing you all of your reading stats, which I didn't think I'd be into. I didn't get into it for the stats. I just wanted to track the books I was reading, but it ended up really being a lot of fun to see all the stats about my reading. So it also generates these like monthly summaries for you in graphic form. So you can share this to social media. I've printed them out. You can see like a basic stats page of books, pages, hours, average ratings. I don't usually rate books, so my average rating is always going to be 5.0 basically. And then it shows you like fiction versus nonfiction and the genre, as well as pages read versus minutes listened, and then the medium you read, like digital versus audio versus print. You can also do a print cover page like this for the month. You can see all the book covers you read. And it also even generates this calendar for you, so you can see what book you were reading when, how long it took you to read it, and it even shows you the DNFs. So I printed out all of the monthly summaries from Storygraph to make a little stats spread. So just here is like the number of books I read and pages I read or hours I listened to. I don't really care about reading a lot. I actually want to read less and read more quality and read slower, but interesting to see the stats here. Here is fiction versus nonfiction, and you can see heavily a fiction reader. Some months I read only fiction. Looks like February and August, and June. But most of the months I did make an effort to read some nonfiction. For the genres, besides January and February, romance was my most read genre, the dark maroon color, and then followed by orange is historical. So basically, historical romance is my most read genre. I think January and February it was fantasy because of Sarah J. Maas. I was reading Crescent City and Throne of Glass, so that accounts for the heavy fantasy in the beginning of the year. And then I also printed out the digital versus print versus audio stats. And you can see I am heavily a digital reader. I read on my Kindle because I mostly read from books borrowed through Libby. And sometimes I listen to a lot of audio. And the blue, sometimes I read from print, from books from the library as well. And apparently I did not film an outro to the reading journal flip through last December, but here is some vertical footage of me flipping through the book for probably YouTube shorts. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I know I've been really quiet here this year, but I think editing this very belated video will get me back in the mood to share more. So stay safe and well, and I will see you next time. Bye!